Welcome, everybody, to our Kramer module number 3. This one is Massachusetts transaction-related issues. And what we're going to do in this particular topic is cover things that would be relevant, transactionally speaking, that they look out for here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. All real estate licensees are bound to the same federal standards of practice, but each state has its own regulations and laws as well. Now, these also indicate how transactions are to occur in those particular states. And in this segment, we're going to be discussing Massachusetts transaction-related issues and what you need to know to be able to pass your real estate licensing examination. All right, something that is state-specific and that's big for our real estate exam here in Massachusetts is some Massachusetts-specific case law. And one of the big case laws that we're going to go through is McCarthy v. Tobin. And what I want to do here is just give us a quick sort of bullet point overview, looking at my notes, as to what we need to remember, some of the more key essential bullet points for that particular case. If, during the courses, you typically will have either myself or some other instructor go over it, but there's some very, very easy things that we just need to remember about it. And so first off, basically offer included the property's address, offer price, terms, date, and deposit. So there was an offer between these two parties, McCarthy and Tobin, and this particular offer to purchase, remember that original short document had all of those included items. Both parties signed the offer, and then what they ended up doing during the contract phase was the purchase and sales agreement was delayed for some reason. And what happened was Tobin accepted another offer during that delay. And McCarthy came back and sued, stating that the intention was clearly stated and agreed upon. And the initial judgment was in favor of Tobin, but then it went to the Supreme Court, and the Massachusetts Supreme Court overturned the original decision, which favored Tobin and the second buyer, and said that the offer was a binding agreement. And what ended up happening as part of the outcome to that is the McCarthy v. Tobin resulted in the offer to purchase being accepted as binding in contracts. So you want to know those particular elements of McCarthy v. Tobin, and that's an important piece of contract case law that carries forward here in sort of transaction-related issues in Massachusetts. All right, the next topic related consumer transaction-related issues is privacy. So here in Massachusetts, regarding transaction-related issues, we have to know a little bit about consumer protection and privacy, namely something called Mass General Law, Chapter 93H. Not A, which we all know as the Consumer Protection Act. So 93A is Consumer Protection Act, and then we have something called 93H, which is our consumer protection and privacy provisions of law here in Massachusetts. Now, this is overseen by the Office of Consumer Affairs. So we do want to know who's sort of, the sheriff when it comes down to that. And basically, Mass General Law, Chapter 93H is designed to protect the personal information of residents here in the Commonwealth of Mass. It protects access to and use of this information. Protected information means the consumer's name plus social security number, license or ID numbers of any kinds, and any bank account information that would be considered private. Businesses must have a plan in place for in the event of this breach of privacy or loss of personal private information. And this is what 93H is. So again, very short, but we want to know what Mass General Law Chapter 93H is, and we want to know that it deals with privacy protection. Okay, next up for transaction-related issues here in Massachusetts for real estate brokerage examinations and salesperson's examinations is the Massachusetts Uniform Electronic Transactions Act. Oh, that's a big phrase. It's basically, short form MUETA. And basically, we want to know a few little bits and pieces here. Number one, electronic records and electronic signatures are covered under this act, this statute. Electronic agreements, signatures and records are legally enforceable. So that's the big thing here, that electronic documentation and signatures are enforceable, which means can be enforced by a court. All right. And all parties must agree to an electronic transaction. And as long as all parties agree to this being in electronic format, then we are all good to go. And we don't need to know much more about it. But again, this is a relevant piece of information here in Massachusetts for transaction-related issues. Okay, a big topic you are going to see on real estate brokerage / salesperson style examinations is going to be property taxes. And we need to know a few bullet points to cling to as we are preparing for this next section. So let me go through these with you, and they're pretty easy, but we just want to know the big picture here so we understand some things about property taxes. Number one, all real estate, residential and commercial, is subject to property taxation. Of course, there are exempt items, exempt types of properties or situations, so we do know those. But for right now, I just want you to know, big picture wise, that all residential and commercial real estate is subject to taxation. Property taxes are used for infrastructure, the school systems, towns, these types of things, developmental things, all of those things are what we use real property taxes for. The town or municipality comes up with the budget, and that budget is divided by the tax base to come up with a tax rate. And that rate is then applied to properties based off of assessed values. And those are some basic, simple bullet points for us to know for real estate property taxes. Now, obviously, I'd mentioned before, there are some exempt types of properties, things like schools, hospitals, public land. Senior citizens, for example, may qualify for some kind of reductions or senior freezes or exemptions on their taxes. Universities, that type of stuff. Medical facilities, potentially. All of those things are potentially exempted, religious organizations, from real property taxation. So there are exemptions. Now, in addition to all of that with property taxes, we have something called Proposition 2.5, and you might see a reference of that on an examination. And it basically limits the increase to no more than 2.5% annually to property taxes unless there is a voter override. So there's a ceiling as far as where taxes can rise no farther, and that's what Proposition 2.5 hopes or helps to achieve, unless, again, there's a voter a sort of override, and then they can exceed that particular number. All right. And then the other thing is some tax penalties that we want to just remember. Things like liens, tax sales after 2 years of unpaid taxes. So all of these particular things are things that could come up on this taxation section regarding transaction-related issues for your Massachusetts Crammer number 3. And I look forward to the next segment. Okay, transaction-related issues here in Massachusetts, Crammer number 3. The next topic that I want to go through are some other types of liens. Just, I would boil these down in some instances to just, some definitions and memorizing these. A mortgage is a lien on a property, for example, number 1. So we want to know that a mortgage is just merely a lien. When a mortgage is paid off or discharged, we use that phrase discharge when it's paid off, that must be recorded at the Registry of Deeds by county. So we want to remember that. Failure to record the discharge will make a cloud on the title. That is another vocab phrase, a cloud on title, an issue. Normally, a mortgage is the primary lien, but there's also a super lien, which could take priority in front of the mortgage. An example of a super lien creditor would be taxation. All right. And in some instances, like, for example, here in Massachusetts, a super lien creditor would also be a condo association, which can take priority over a mortgage lien being recorded. The super lien law states here in Massachusetts that unpaid condo fees can result in a super lien to cover up to 6 months of HOA dues. HOA stands for Homeowners Association, plus attorney costs. And then the final item here is a condo association must send a disciplinary notice at least 60 days before filing the super lien. And that covers all of the other types of liens here in the Commonwealth. And remember, there's a certificate that we have to get if we're buying a condominium, and that is a 6D certificate. Okay, back to transaction-related issues here in Massachusetts, and we're making our way through this Crammer number 3. The next topic, we just finished talking about the super lien law here in Massachusetts regarding condominiums. You certainly want to know what a condo is. It's a type of property ownership where we own the common areas in common, as tenants in common, and all of our individual units, the airspace within, we own as whatever sort of form of ownership that we want. So we have a deed for our interior unit, the unit deed, and then there's a master deed that all of the units co-own the common areas together. Something else we want to know about condos is about condo conversions potentially here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Number one, a landlord, if we are converting our building into condominiums, must give the tenant a 1-year notice. So with condo conversions, it's 1 year notice. Now, some tenants must be granted 2 years notice, including the disabled and elderly. We give those folks a 2-year notice, okay? Tenants are given the right of first refusal for the first 90 days. So they are given the opportunity to purchase the condo, and they're given the right of first refusal. Now, those are condo conversion laws here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and it is a possibility you could see these on examinations, so look out for them. Okay, regarding transaction-related issues here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, another piece that we want to memorize for the exam is homestead protection here in Massachusetts. Now, if you took our course, for example, we detail into what is homestead and how it works and the coverage. But basically what we need to know for homestead is protects homeowners from losing their primary residence to certain creditors. So it covers your primary residence here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. You can only have one primary residence for homestead exemption and applies to that. There is an automatic exemption that is applied of $125,000 and a written declared exemption up to $500,000, $500,000 if you're filing singly. If you're 62 and filing jointly, it's up to $1 million. And if you're disabled, then it's $1 million. Okay? So those are your homestead exemptions and a brief understanding of what it was. And you'll see that potentially covered on the exam. So you might want to know those numbers and sort of what homestead exemption or protection is. Okay, a few other items that we want to go through regarding transaction-related issues here in the Commonwealth of Mass as we're studying for our real estate examinations. Number one is a grouping called descent and distribution. And if you remember back to our real estate course or the course that you might have taken, you will probably remember words like a will, the word intestate, testate, those types of phrases you definitely want to refresh your memory on. You may see them for Massachusetts exam questions. Number one, so remember, when somebody passes without a will, they die intestate. So we want to remember intestate. The opposite is testate. So if you die testate, you die with a will. And if you die intestate and you have no heirs, then it goes to the state or the county for distribution, which is called escheat. So remember that. So here in Massachusetts, the property or the estate escheats to the county. Another one was something called the right of election. So in that situation, let's say if a spouse passes away and doesn't include his surviving spouse or her surviving spouse in the estate, then there's something called the right of election, which could come up on an examination, a phrase, where the surviving spouse has a right to share in the decedent's estate, right? So they might put that in as one of the answers in a multiple choice scenario, and that's called the right of election. So look out for those two items and some of those other vocab phrases like probate, a will, intestate, escheat, as they all kind of couple together for that section on an examination. Okay, the next topic in our Kramer series from Massachusetts transaction-related issues is foreclosure. Just some brief stuff here. Number one, remember that a property can be taken by a lender as collateral if payments are not made on time per the loan terms. And in Massachusetts, foreclosure can happen in one of three ways. Number one, peaceful entry, no court judgment. Sometimes also you'll see a phrase that they refer to called a deed in lieu of foreclosure. That's another popular vocab phrase, so look out for that one. Deed in lieu of foreclosure. Another way is court order for possession. And the third way is consent of the borrower. All right, so peaceful entry or no court judgment, court order for possession, or consent of the borrower, and deed in lieu of foreclosure. So look out for those three and sort of a basic framework definition of what a foreclosure is. Okay, regarding foreclosures here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, a few more items. Number one, the borrower's right. We want to be familiar with the phrase a right to cure, which basically in essence is giving the borrower a right to remediate the problem before foreclosure action takes place. So they're given a certain statutory period of time to cure the default and get current. And then there's something called the right of redemption, which is another phrase. And in right of redemption, basically what happens is that even after the sale, there may be a time period prescribed by law that gives the defaulting borrower the right to reclaim title to the property. You see right of redemption, for example, an equitable and a statutory right of redemption when it comes to tax sales here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And in some instances, there may be a prescribed period after a foreclosure sale where the lender has to allow the consumer to try to reclaim the property even after it's been foreclosed on. That's called the right of redemption. Sometimes there's a statutory right, and then sometimes there could be an equitable right of redemption. And then finally, we want to be familiar with what is a short sale. So to avoid foreclosure, an owner can sell for less than they owe to short sell the property to see if they can help remediate it. Now, this has to be approved by the investor in case that happens. And many times you see short sales when the market values of assets drop significantly and consumers with high leverage financing may owe more than the property's worth. The lender must agree to a short sale, number one. And then number two, a property that does not sell at auction reverts back to the lender potentially. All right, that was everything regarding transaction-related issues in Massachusetts. Again, as a condensed version of what we need to study as we're preparing for this exam and it's coming up, and the deadline is looming. These are the little topics that I would focus on with transaction-related issues for your Kramer series here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Good luck with your studies and good luck on your exams.